My name is Shannon McCarty. I'm the Vice President of Learning and Instruction at Calbright College. And today I am joined with two of my amazing colleagues, Andrea Brewster and Jessica Shade. And they are two of Calbright's curriculum and assessment faculty members. And Andrea brings deep expertise in curriculum development, research, and competency alignment. And her work really helps ensure that our learning experiences are academically rigorous, student-centered, and aligned to measurable outcomes and workforce expectations. And Jessica, or Jess, plays a critical role in assessment strategy, learning quality, and continuous improvement processes. Her work really focuses on ensuring that assessments are meaningfully measure student mastery and that our curriculum remains responsive both to learners and employer needs. So today we're really here to provide an overview of our approach to curriculum and assessment, how we align to workforce outcomes, really the role that we depend on for industry and labor market data, and just ensuring that we have relevant and rigorous programs for our students. So you're going to hear about our collaborative work, what's happening across our academic teams to help support adult learners. We're going to give you a little bit of more information about our model, our practices, and some of the intentional design work that supports the student's success. So I'm going to move on over to the agenda and just give you a little bit. I will give you a little bit of information about Calbright in case you don't know about us. So I'll dive a little bit deeper so you'll have a background information to learn about the college. We're also going to go from there just to talk about labor and market insights and how they help inform our program development and curriculum decisions. We'll review how competencies and assessments are designed, the role that our faculty play, subject matter experts, and how we ensure maintaining quality and relevance, and then even the continuous improvement process embedded in our model. And then we're going to close with some reflections on student impact, workforce alignment, and opportunities for continued collaboration and innovation. So super excited to share all of this with you. All right, so let me give you a little bit of background into Calbright. And Calbright is California's first fully online competency-based community college. And our mission is really centered on being flexible, accessible, equity-focused, and workforce relevant. So as many of you, if you're coming from community colleges or serving adult learners, you know how important it is that programs really allow students to have a balance of careers, family, and life responsibilities. So knowing this, we really designed a model that allows learners to progress through our programs, demonstrating mastery rather than just seat time alone. So something that we're all very deep in our spirits and believe very deeply in, and so something we're very proud to work on. A little bit more about Calbright. So again, really our learning is designed for skills and competencies, and it connects directly to workforce alignment. Excuse me. So it's all about helping students gain skills and knowledge and be able to master those, convey those, and then apply those to employment and advancement opportunities. So we are the newest Calbright College. We're wrapping up our seventh year. So we're at the end of our startup period. We're currently serving about 7,000 students, and we have 10 programs to support those students. We are in 57 of 58 counties, so we're still trying to get that 58th county. And again, as I mentioned, we're really focused on thinking about the adult learner. So we think about andragogy, intentional design, all the important things that we know that helps adults really thrive and complete in programs. So, and at this point, I believe I am handing it over to Jess.
Thank you so much. And so one of the things that really excites me about Calbright is the way that our programs are developed. We are no cost tuition to our students, and we offer short-term vocational CTE programs. And this is deeply personal to me as someone who graduated with substantial student loans and then, had fun delivering pizzas to try to pay those off. The idea that we actually look at our labor market first. So we're looking at industry. We work very closely with our workforce department to identify where there is a need within our state for new skills, for employment that can be gained through a certificate program. And so this This allows us to work very closely with not only workforce, but also with our industry partners to identify areas within industry where there's growth that also provide living wages and allow students to either enter a new field or upskill to advance their career. We are also equity minded in our approach, so we make sure that we are reaching out to students who have perhaps been excluded from higher education experiences or opportunities in the past. And then what really gets me excited is we are skills based. We are competency based education, and we follow an assessment forward approach. So this allows students to enter a program, identify what skills they already possess from life experience, work experience, and then be able to move forward at their own pace, targeting the skills that where they still have room for growth. And this allows our students, especially our adult learners, many of whom are juggling caregiving for adults or for children, perhaps juggling full-time employment with multiple jobs. This allows our students to really focus on exactly where they need to still develop skills in order to either upskill or reskill to transition into a new industry. Because we are self-paced, we also work with the students to set their own pacing. We know that just handing a student a program and saying, all right, good luck, doesn't always work. And so we do have amazing student support specialists that walk the journey alongside of our students in addition to our faculty to help our students stay on pace. And so this allows our students to proceed with confidence, knowing that they're getting that credit for the skills they've already developed in life, honing new skills and moving forward at a pace that works for them, for their family, and their life circumstance. So, how do we do this? And I will turn it over to Andrea.
Okay, thank you, Jess. So as just shared with you all, Calbright has an assessment board competency-based education model. Let's unpack that for a minute. What does that mean? What it means is that learning is self-paced. In practice, we have 52 terms a year. We have learners starting in programs every single week of the year. It means that when there are assessments of student learning, those assessments are focused on demonstration of proficiency in each competency area only, and that's it. And it means that learners pass a competency and move forward through a program when they demonstrate that proficiency. And if they have not yet demonstrated it, they have multiple opportunities to get formative feedback, retry, and then demonstrate that proficiency. It also means time to completion is highly flexible. And I wouldn't say I wouldn't say there are no time limits, but we have a very generous, satisfactory academic progress policy. At Calbright, we want learners to engage at their own pace, and we want all of our learners to be successful. Next slide, please. So Calbright engages in multi-level student learning outcome assessment for every program, every course that populates that program, and every competency or module within every course. Every competency has lessons, activities, and assessments that align with those program level, course level outcomes, competency level outcomes. And we also at Calbright have what we call observable skills. And these are typically 2 to 5 skills that a learner must perform at proficiency before we can reasonably infer that that learner has met the competency and the linked program and course level outcomes have been met. We backwards design the curriculum in every program, starting with the outcomes, and then make sure through the development of that curriculum for a program that it continues to maintain alignment with those established outcomes. The validation of that alignment is overseen by the disciplinary subject matter expert building that program in partnership with curriculum and assessment faculty throughout the development process. Next slide, please. And I'll hand it back to you, Shannon.
Thank you very much. And I saw that a few questions had come in, so I was going to answer those, and I'll speak to the interstate alignment component. So one of the questions did ask how many times can a student submit before to gain proficiency. So what we do allow students to submit up to 6 times. If they submit 3 times and still have not mastered the competency, we do kind of have a stop block, I would say, and require the student to have a meeting with a tutor and or a faculty member before they can resubmit. Obviously, at that point, if they've gone on 3 times and trying to complete a project, there's probably some missing piece of information that they haven't gained. So we think that one-on-one connection can help them get there. That happens again after the fifth, and say they try to submit another project one more time, and after that fifth submission, they're still not quite getting it, then we will again have that kind of roadblock in place where students are required to meet with the faculty member at that point in time. And then the sixth time is kind of the final attempt, and that does align with the California Community College system practices and policies for CBE as well. One of the other questions, yes, we will make sure the presentation is shared. And the other question is, how can other colleges have a similar flexible model? I think that that is a great question. I should say that currently, Calbright College is free to all adult learners within the state of California. And so we are not Title IV, at the moment, we do not participate in Title IV or have funds delivered to us by the Department of Education. And so our flexibility is really based on not having to align with those standards. And it is something that we feel very strongly about. But I am sure that other colleges can look for flexible models. And it is something hopefully that a collection we can start to push on some policies and practices at a larger scale. All right. So I think I got most of those questions, but thank you. And so I really love that Andrea just kind of told you a little bit about the model. And one of the things that I think that you're going to hear us highlight again and again is just really the importance of industry alignment. And we really want to ensure that what we are teaching and the information that students leave with remains relevant to students, but also to employers. And so for us to do this, we rely very heavily on industry and labor market data. We also do analysis related to workforce trends. And then we go even a few steps further and actually interview subject matter experts and employers. And so the whole time we're really looking for labor market information that will help us identify emerging skills, changing workforce demands, and opportunities where students can gain meaningful and career mobility. So we really try to pull all this together. But as you know, data is not enough. And so we actually speak directly with industry experts and we will interview them and ask them, what does their job look like in practice? What is kind of like the day in the life of? If there are evolving expectations related to that field, and then any other kind of real world applications that we should be help preparing students for as they complete our programs into the job market. So we really take both the qualitative and the quantitative data together, and that really helps strengthen curriculum relevance, ensuring that we're meeting those workforce alignments and that students are getting the right skills. And when I say skills, it's both industry relevant technical skills, but also durable skills that students need to be successful on the job. And Jess is going to take it from there and give us a little bit deeper insight into that as well.
Thank you very much. And so let's get into the weeds with how we actually take this vision of our industry alignment and put it into play in our curriculum design. So we start with a labor market analysis. Workforce has identified a gap within the field. And so we really want to identify what are the exact skills that are needed for this particular position. Where in the state are these positions available? Where is the need and what specifically is the need? And so we start with really looking at that labor market analysis, leveraging Lightcast data that we can really identify the skills that are needed. We also do a credential mapping. So we take a look at other industry relevant credentials. For example, for our IT programs, we tend to lean on CompTIA. Medical coding, we take a look at AAPC. And so we look at leaders within the industry field to just verify that, yes, the skills that we're seeing in our labor market analysis are also skills that we're seeing in the credentials. And if appropriate and wherever relevant, we fold those credentials into the curriculum as well. Again, allowing our students to not only demonstrate through their Calbright certificate that they have demonstrated these skills, but also validating that through industry certificates where appropriate, right? Not every industry has a CompTIA badge that students need. And so really making sure that it's relevant to that particular industry. And we want our students to go into their first job within this new field prepared for the first quarter. So we're always thinking about what skills do students really need to demonstrate on the job within those first 30 to 90 days of employment. We know that industry is fast evolving. Every industry, especially now with AI, is changing so rapidly. We know there will be continued learning that our students will do after graduation, after they've completed their program and obtained that job. But we want to be sure that we are setting our students up for success on day one. And as Dr. McCarty mentioned, we also fold in durable skills or career skills so that students also have the skills needed to continue their learning once they have entered their new field. So we're taking a look at a lot of the data in the background. What's the labor market saying? What are the credentials saying? But then we also want that industry feedback. So twice a year, we have advisory councils that are pertinent to their particular discipline. So information technology, healthcare, business, etc. And that allows us to have a pool of experts from around the state to help inform our curriculum design. So we have an initial meeting that says, hey, what's going on in the field? What do we need to be aware of? Where do you see the trends leading? Again, trying to get a little ahead of those reports, to get a little ahead of the industry. So that way we are on that cutting edge preparing our students. Then we're able to take that information back and integrate it into our program where it's appropriate within that given industry context. Then we meet with our industry again and say, hey, this is what we've done. These are the changes that we've made. These are the results that we're seeing. Where should we go next? And so being able to continually have that industry expertise in the loop allows us to stay on pace, or hopefully the goal is a little step ahead of where the industry is heading. We also have program specific focus groups. So when we're developing new curriculum, before it goes to curriculum committee, we want to be sure that we have multiple perspectives from the industry folded into that curriculum. As Dr. Brewster mentioned earlier, we do have a subject matter expert who is full-time faculty working alongside curriculum and assessment development faculty, but we want to be sure that it's not limited in perspective. So being able to bring in those focus groups, being able to send out a survey with our proposed curriculum to our industry partners allows us to get that feedback from multiple perspectives from different leaders within the field. So we make sure that we are really covering our bases, so to speak, and make sure that we have a holistic input on what the curriculum needs to be to satisfy the industry today and in the near future. And then what really gets me excited is the opportunities for extension. We know that getting a job without job experience is this awful catch-22. And so we want to be sure that our students leave not only with the skills that they need, but also with the ability to showcase those skills to future employers. And so being able to, again, attach industry relevant credentials through national certifications where appropriate, folding in experiential learning so that students are in the process of developing a professional portfolio while they are engaged in their program. And getting that experiential learning, which we know is a line on the resume, but it is also crucial feedback for a learner who is entering a new field. We also have internship and where appropriate apprenticeship experiences for our students so that once again, they're building those skills, they have that resume line, but perhaps more importantly, they're developing that mentorship experience or that mentorship relationship with an industry professional and really getting that feedback on how their skills that they've learned through our program are being applied to a real world work project. So they understand that connection between the doing in class and the doing on the job. So multiple checkpoints, multiple ways that we're folding in those industry partners to ensure that we start with industry alignment and maintain that industry alignment in our curriculum. Next slide, please.
So let me share a little bit about what assessments look like and feel like within each competency. At Calbright, there are commonly 4 types of assessments in our courses. There is a pre-assessment, and if you're not familiar with competency education, odds are you're going to say, what's that? Well, it is a multiple choice exam that helps a learner demonstrate prior knowledge relevant to each observable skill area of a competency. This helps determine an individual learner's pathway through the curriculum. Now, what's that? Well, if a learner in that pre-assessment quiz tests out of the first lesson in a competency, because they already demonstrate adequate proficiency, they are offered the opportunity to skip that particular lesson and go either right to the next lesson, or if they've tested out of all of the lessons in a competency, go directly to the assessments for that competency. That being said, the learner is always welcome to access and review all the lessons. They're not blocked out of those. But if a learner already knows some and can demonstrate proficiency in some of those observable skills, let's accelerate them through the competency and let them demonstrate what they can do in those assessments. So, what are the assessments? After the pre-assessment, there are formative assessments within the lessons. Those are opportunities to knowledge check and confirm understanding of lesson content. And then we get to the milestone assessment and the summative assessment. The milestone assessment is a project-based assignment that invites learners to apply their skills in a given competency area, those observable skills that we talked about, to real world on the job scenarios. The milestone assignment builds learner skills, it builds confidence, and it scaffolds that learning to help learners be successful on the culminating assignment for each competency. That's the summative assessment. The summative is also a project-based assignment, but it requires greater learner independence in demonstrating their ability to transfer and apply key knowledge and skills to more complex workplace tasks or situations. Often the summative assessment can then serve as professional portfolio pieces or artifacts that demonstrate to employers what the learner can do. Next slide, please. So as we alluded to earlier, industry alignment is shaping the beginning, the middle, and the ongoing refinement of curriculum. As I just described, milestone and summative assessments invite learners to demonstrate proficiency on all the observable skills associated with the competency. And we aim for those assessments to be as realistic as possible and things that an entry-level employee in the industry associated with the program is likely to be asked to do in those first, we say, 90 days on the job. So how do we know we're achieving our expectations of ourselves for our learners and with our learners? Well, the validation of those assessments involves subject matter experts in these industries, our curriculum and assessment faculty, and most recently, a third key stakeholder group, our advisory council members. These are members of industries that are represented in our programs. In fact, I was so excited to pilot last fall, bringing advisory council members into discussion with us around initial drafts of assessments to help us confirm that those tasks and scenarios in our assessments are highly relevant to entry-level jobs and the kind of evidence that hiring managers need to see to give somebody a job offer. And that's what we want for all of our learners. We want them to upskill, reskill, or in some cases, newly skill into where they want to be in their professional life. Next slide, please. Jess, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much. Project-based assessments are graded or scored on a two-level analytical rubric. So this was developed in partnership with CBE experts in the field, assessment experts in the field. And so being able to, one, engender a growth mindset by just simply changing the language from a fail or a zero to not yet. And we want our students to get the feedback that where they're on the right track, but where they may need to go back and refresh because they're not quite. So this is an example from a data analysis program from a module, a competency module that is addressing SQL. And so you can see within this competency, there are 3 discrete observable skills. And within the milestone and summative projects, students are expected to demonstrate these skills. So when we think about the student learning journey, they're engaged in the pre-assessment, so they're seeing one question at a time. Then they move into those formative lessons and associated formative assessments. But those are, again, still siloed into one observable skill. We want the students to first practice assembling all of these skills into one project on the milestone. The milestone is typically an easier entry point, allowing scaffolding for the learners so that when they reach this point, they have a practice, you could say, in putting all of these observable skills together and demonstrating them in one industry authentic. After students are successful with that, and they are invited to move on to the summative, where they are expected to independently demonstrate all of these skills, again, within a task that is relevant to the industry job upon which they will likely enter, completing our program. This rubric also allows faculty to provide more detailed feedback for our students. So if a student was, successfully demonstrating skills 1 and 2, but needed some additional support with skill 3, the faculty member then can provide independent comment for that student, specifying what they need to do to meet that observable skill, and of course, directing them back to the resources within that corresponding formative lesson. So this allows us, when we think about our model, we're working in an asynchronous environment. We have some students that are working at 2 in the afternoon and others that are working at 2 in the morning. And so we want to be sure that the feedback that they're given from the faculty member not only gives them feedback on their assessment, but also directs them where to go, because we do want to create lifelong learners and we want to create that independent learner. And so being able to leverage the observable skills and the associated formative lesson allows faculty to redirect the student to correct those misconceptions before the student moves on to the summative, where hopefully they're successful in the first attempt. But if not, we'll provide those interventions as needed. Next slide, please.
So what does learning outcomes assessment look like at our institution? We talked about assessment lowercase a, individual assessments in our competencies for our learners. Let's talk about uppercase A, program level assessment. We, like many other institutions, have an annual assessment that takes place in our programs. And we also have periodic program review. At Calbright, we do that on a 3-year cycle. However, we also need to make sure that observable skills data is available to instructors and to curriculum and assessment faculty and others for more frequent review and interpretation. So we also need to be able to review program level data in aggregate and disaggregated by relevant demographic metric variables on a quarterly basis. Sometimes we, especially for a new program that is just launching, we're looking at even more frequently than that. We also have student learning survey data to triangulate, help us triangulate our understanding of direct assessment data. And we're also weaving in faculty, tutoring staff, alumni feedback to heighten our understanding of student learning and experience in each program. And on top of that, we're soliciting that feedback that Jess talked about from our industry partners and internship supervisors in programs where that's relevant, to really create a complex and comprehensive portrait of what we're doing well that is helping our learners learn, and what we need to do better and adjust to help our learners be more successful. Next slide, please.
As you can imagine, with a new term starting each Monday, and some of our programs having 3,000 students, that data can get a little tangly. So while and faculty can look at their outcomes assessment or their assessment data through the Canvas Outcomes Gradebook, when we really want to look at it from a programmatic lens, we are able to pull our data from Canvas into AWS, and we're able to then take that data and merge it with data from CCC Apply. So that way we can look at our data through multiple angles. We had an amazing fellow who built a beautiful dashboard for us in Tableau. And this allowed us to really look at the data from a competency lens. How are students doing when they enter that competency through that pre-assessment? Where are they by the time they reach the milestone? And then where are they by the time they reach the summative? And this allows us to support our learners, but also really inform not only tutoring interventions, but also those program changes when needed to ensure that students are successful, that we are providing the correct sequencing and scaffolding and supports along the way. This also allows us to disaggregate the data by demographic. We have a very equity minded mission. The equity is our focus. And so we want to be sure that we are meeting that mission, that we are true to that. And so being able to look at our data across different demographics helps us to ensure that we are supporting every subgroup of learner. This also helps us to really identify where we may need targeted interventions. We work very closely with our tutoring center so that we can provide what we call workshops. So if we identify an area in a program where it is necessary for the students to develop these skills, but oftentimes students may need a little additional support with this particular assignment or this particular project. We work with tutoring to host these past workshops for more challenging assignments. And this also allows our students to collaborate in a group setting, which is really fun in an asynchronous environment. It creates that community feel. And we're also able to identify where we can act more strategically to support all learners. And so that may mean resequencing our competencies, that may mean a new assessment, or that may mean pulling in our industry partners again to see how we can tweak the assessment so it is more relevant to what students are doing on the job. And so being able to really look at the data from the competency level and then adjust based on what the data is saying, but also, of course, triangulating that, as Andrea mentioned, with the feedback that we're getting from students, from tutors, and from faculty allows us to really target our changes and then measure that impact. Next slide, please.
All right, and I'm going to pause because I know that we have a lot of questions in the chat. So before we continue on, I wanted to make sure that we address some of those questions. So let's see, sorry, scrolling back here real quick. I was able to answer kind of the advisory councils and the different industry partners who are on those. We did have a question about using someone's skepticism and using multiple choice tests to identify existing learner skills. And if we could speak to what we've done to make these pre-assessments valid. And absolutely, I can give you a couple of examples, but then I invite Jess and Andrea in to add. One of the things that we do to ensure that they are valid is we monitor them. And again, this is a pre-assessment, kind of an early analysis of finding out what students know, what skills they have, what comfort level they have with the content. It does not allow them to completely test out of a competency. We still do require them to convey evidence and demonstrate knowledge with our summative assessments. So it's kind of an early assessment of where they are. And then if they do show like that certain level of mastery, they're able to move very quickly over to the summative. They still have access to all of the content, additional formative assessments. They're just not required to sit through all of those and complete those. And one of the things that we are monitoring is we're able to pull data to see how students are performing on those pre-assessments. So if we suddenly saw that 80% of students are passing that pre-assessment, it's probably not a valid pre-assessment and it's probably too low of a rigor. And so that is something that we're always looking at. But currently, like students are not just sailing through these pre-assessments. Like it does, I think, give them a good kind of check and review opportunity to see where they are and then help them focus on how they spend their time before they prepare and complete that summative assessment. But Jess or Andrea, anything to add about the validity of the pre-assessments?
I can speak to that. Dr. McCarty just shared a great summary of what we're doing on the back end of those pre-assessments. On the front end of those pre-assessments, we've spent the past year bringing in expertise and training our team on best practices in multiple choice question design so that we are building them better than we were 2 years ago. And then on the back end, like Dr. McCarty said, then we're looking at that data, double checking anything that looks suspicious. We want our learners to have an individual pathway that helps them be successful and competent and have that growth mindset. If a pre-assessment is not an accurate appraisal of a student's proficiency, then we don't want them to struggle in when they go to the milestone and the summative assessments. So we've tried to really improve both on the front end, the constructive of those questions, and then on the back end, our continuous analysis of how well that they are working. Always more to do though.
Oh, yes, always going to do. And then keeping in mind that every question on the pre-assessment is tagged to an observable skill. And so that's where the rubric data becomes very valuable. If we notice that on a milestone, again, that first project-based assessment, students are struggling with a specific observable skill, then we can actually trace that back. Did students skip that formative lesson because the pre-assessment said they had mastered or had already had possessed that skill? Well, we can trace back and then we can actually pull all of the questions that are associated with that observable skill and analyze those questions. Maybe it's the formatting, maybe it's the specific question, but then we're able to modify those to ensure that those questions associated with that specific observable skill truly are measuring where the learner is with that skill at a particular point in time.
All right. Hopefully we answered that question. I think it may have addressed the second question, which is there a limit on how many skills a student can, I believe it's master or maybe complete out of in a program. And again, while we take a competency as a more modular level, we do disaggregate that down into observable skills. So students would be able to um, prepare and test into the summative. I don't want to say they're testing out of the competency of all those observable skills that then align to that competency as they prepare for the summative. So there's not necessarily like a limit, but it is, from a larger picture, the larger competency to the smaller nuanced observable skills that they can, I guess, convey mastery of and move forward. So hopefully that answered that. There was another kind of follow-up question about industry experts and how they are assigned. So one of the things that we do is part of looking for individuals to sit is also who has job opportunities and who is hiring and or are there opportunities for students. And that will actually provide some of the placement of advisory council members onto our advisory councils. So we do try to plug as much as possible as internship, apprenticeship opportunities. And so a lot of it is alignment. And sometimes where industry experts feel that they can add the best expertise. So hopefully that addressed. I did answer the student survey question. Lots of different ways that we collect student surveys. So we have a midpoint within the course as well as an end of course survey. We also do a short-term pilot when we launch programs. Before we relaunch those as public programs, we do have student focus groups, as well as meeting with the faculty members and adjunct faculty that are teaching to gather information. And then we will use that as information that we can then inform iterations before we do full program launches as well. And yes, we do start, well, the students start their clock when they do start, and it does start every Monday. So a student can jump into the program and get started. So as you can imagine, yes, we are constantly monitoring, I guess it's what you would call their semesters, we would call it their terms. And it's quite an impressive process doing that in real time. Um, do, 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 do. Oh, and then the question about selecting a career and learning pathway. We do a couple of things. We try to kind of do an assessment at the very start of a student's before they even get into a program, just to identify like their level of interest. We also have an onboarding that is mandatory, so students will go into a kind of a Calbright onboarding. We do talk about the programs. We try to do is up front as much information as possible about, how the program then aligns to industry opportunities for students. We talk about the different kind of pathways, entry points. All of those are embedded as part of like onboarding, kickoff, and then even within the program itself as students get started. We also have a very robust career services kind of individuals and connections as well. And so students have an opportunity to meet with career services. And then we have a, workforce readiness faculty member or career readiness faculty member. She actually sits over a lot of the durable skills. And so she also is meeting with students to look at resumes, talk about job search opportunities, and support students as they work through the program pathways. So we do try to do as much as possible to support students in that approach. Because of course, you all teach students, engage with students. It's not uncommon that a student might be like, this is the career path I want, but then they learn more about what that means. They're like, maybe not, maybe I need to adjust a little bit. So we do try to ask questions and present students with, this is what, a day in the life of looks like when you enter into the career. Can you view the dashboard? Uh, yes, we could probably send out like a screenshot of the dashboard if you'd like to see the dashboard. It is very impressive. So we were very lucky to have that built out in Tableau. Um, and let's see, I'm trying to go through these. Lots of great questions. I'll get one more and then jump back in, and then we can always come back at the end as well. Um, and then Calbright is currently funded by the state of California. So that is our current funding model at this point in time. All right. So I'm going to jump back in and we'll move through kind of talking about maintaining industry alignment. And then we'll come back to all these great questions. And love the questions. It means that you guys are engaged and really curious about the model. And so that gets us excited to tell you more about it. So thank you for the questions. And please feel free to keep them coming, and happy to try to re-answer if we weren't giving you guys enough clarity as well. And I think that, Andrew and Jess have talked a lot about, what we do to make sure that we are industry aligned, how we do a lot of mapping of those competencies to observable skills to workforce outcomes. And I really think that's a lot of the magic behind the scenes. It takes a lot of time and focus to do that mapping, but it really does provide a lot of great insights. And it ensures kind of alignment of what our programs are providing students, how we're assessing students, which is key to all of this, and then how we are getting students ready for workforce. And so again, I don't want to talk too much more about the advisory councils, but it is really an important component of all of that. And I think that we've been really lucky to be able to have engaged advisory council members, but also to really bring them in to provide us really relevant feedback as well. And so it has really helped us ensure that we are maintaining academic quality, consistency, and I would say I like to call it relevancy as part of that. Um, we do make sure that we have multiple perspectives. We talked about the faculty, the advisory council members, the students. We do spend a lot of time making sure that we are meeting students' needs, making sure that they feel prepared, both from technical and as durable skills. And I'll talk a little bit more about some recent opportunities that we've had to assess students with actually doing kind of real world work and some micro internships that we presented for those. Again, the national alignments or certifications. So we do look to see how our students are doing when they are taking exams. Either some of the CompTIA exams, we had been students were also sitting for like Salesforce, CRM administration exams, and even the medical coding exams. So we are monitoring the success of students as they take those, just to make sure that we are preparing them. And then one of the other things that I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive in is the experiential learning opportunities. So we have been partnering with Ripen, and I'll put it in the Slack if you guys, I'll put it in the chat in a minute just so you can look it up and take a look at it if you haven't heard of them. But they are a work-based learning platform. And what they do is do a fantastic job of bringing employers to the table and then creating project-based learning opportunities that students can engage with is either part of a program or post program completion as like a paid micro internship. And so we have done a lot of intentional integration of these project-based learning opportunities within our programs. And so students are doing projects and getting feedback from employers. And so it's a really great opportunity to assess workforce readiness as well. So I'll talk a little bit more of what that looks like. But I would say in the fall, oh gosh, actually, it's been almost a year now. Time flies. We did have a program called Career Bridge, where we were able to pay for 75 paid micro internships. And we partnered with Ripen, and we were co-creating projects. So as students completed our programs, they were doing paid internships in different industries, cybersecurity, project management, data analysis, and HR programs. And so they were paired with an employer and we co-created the projects. So employers thought about what kind of work do I need to get done? And then our faculty members are like, okay, what have we taught students? What knowledge and skills are they bringing to the table? And then, what kind of project can we co-create together so that students can convey mastery of that information? But now they're also completing a job. They're going to get employer feedback as well as a letter of recommendation and something that they can put on their resume. And for me, while that part is super, super exciting, and I love that we had those opportunities for students, we also got some really rich data back. So we're able to ask the employers, were our students workforce ready? And we didn't just focus on industry skills. We asked about both durable and industry skills for students. And we heard from employers, we got like a 4.8 out of 5 about the quality of the work that the students were doing, their preparation for completing the work in those areas. So that was a great kind of insightful experience for us. And then we also did a pre and post assessment for students. How ready did they feel going into these projects? Again, looking at both durable and technical skills. And then how did they perform after completing the projects? And these are about 40-hour micro internships where the students were connecting with employers and the employers were giving direct feedback to the students. So it's a great opportunity for the institution and for our programs, and again, kind of giving that full cycle of information and iterations into our programs. And so, yeah, that was wonderful. And as students completed the projects, all the skills, again, were tagged to those Lightcast skills. And so students really gained information, I would say, about how to say and convey their abilities to do the work. So I think it was a really a full opportunity for our students and something that we're looking forward to providing more opportunities in the future. All right, and now I'm going to hand it back over to Jess.
Thank you. And there's nothing more than I love than a continuous feedback cycle. And so being able to truly base our changes on the industry trends. And so we begin our journey in curriculum development with our labor market analysis, making sure that we are aligning to the skills that are required for that particular industry. And then the second step, partnering to develop curriculum, to partnering to develop those competencies with our subject matter experts, but also with the advisory councils, with surveys and focus groups, and then also comparing to credentials from industry certifications that are recognized nationwide. And then being able to, again, pull in that expertise of the industry through both our subject matter expert, but also through that advisory council feedback on the authentic assessment, ensuring that the assessments that students are engaging in for their milestones and summatives are indeed tasks that they will be asked to perform on the job. And also being able to create those assessments in which students then a portfolio piece that they can show off to potential employers. And then being able to ensure that those skills are demonstrated in those real world projects, if I can say that 5 times fast. But we hear you with the multiple choice. I hear that as well. But for our model, for our students, that works best in this asynchronous model. And so being able to then verify those skills by seeing them in action, right? Just don't just tell me what you know, show me what you can do and show me on this project so that we can verify that yes, you do have this skill and you are able to demonstrate it. And then being able to loop in that industry feedback through that experiential learning, getting that feedback from our partners, getting that feedback from our students and from the alumni. And then, of course, checking it with the data and verifying that we are on track. And when we're not, being able to adjust bringing the advisory council insights in. So we're making sure that we're in step with industry or hopefully maybe a half step ahead. And then being able to keep an eye on those credentials, being able to flex and change as those credentials evolve, and making sure that we have assessments that reflect embedded within our program. And again, when needed, going back to that labor market analysis and re-envisioning that curriculum so that we make sure that we are staying fresh. And so being able to engage with industry in multiple ways at multiple touch points throughout the curriculum cycle allows us to ensure that our students are prepared for that entry level position as soon as they complete our program.
So where do we go from here? Well, we are ambitious and we have a lot of ideas. In the near term, we are really looking forward to engaging in some deeper, longer term analyses of our program level data across all of our programs. Meanwhile, we're a very young institution. We are still growing as an institution as we identify opportunities for Californians in an industry that is growing. Then we figure out how to build a program that will get our learners employed in that growth industry. So that the labor market analyses are ongoing, and then we're involved in multiple the development of multiple new programs as we speak. We continue to consider workforce relevance in our continuous improvement work around student learning. All the touch points that we talked about in this conversation are ones that it doesn't stop, right? Because patterns, trends, industries evolve, and we need to keep pace with that, and ideally keep a little bit ahead of that on behalf of our learners. Third, we are looking to continue to evolve and develop and deepen our industry partnerships to support student learning and access to professional experiences, and continuing to deepen in strategic ways that advisory council engagement, the labor market data analyses that inform where and how we partner with industry to support student learning. Next slide, please.
All right. So we're going to be concluding our presentation, but I know we have lots of questions to answer, which we will be happy to jump into. But I just wanted to kind of emphasize, the work of curriculum assessment development that is really both, I hope you saw it's both strategic, there's a lot of thought and input to it, but also very deeply human-centered. And I think one of the things that you probably noticed between Andrea and Jess is the passion that they bring to the work. And so just, how grateful I am to be able to work with such amazing individuals that bring such a wealth of expertise. And so it really is just this collaboration, across the faculty, our instructional design team, our student service team, as mentioned again and again, the industry experts that we really value. And it really, this kind of this willingness to continue to evaluate and improve is something I think that also is very part of our culture and something that we try to embrace and just very focused on, ever evolving. And while we don't have all the answers by any means, and if the work was easy, then we would all be much farther along. So I know that you guys are here because you all agree that the work is hard and we're trying to accomplish something. And we also can do it with collaborating and connecting with all of you. So appreciate all the great questions that you guys have had for us. And I'm going to move it on over to kind of this, here are names and information if you want to connect at any point in time. I think we're all more than happy to connect with you. I'm hoping that today's conversation has provided some insights into CBE, and just, the practicality and the flexibility and the importance of relevancy in the programs. But I'm going to go ahead and I can stop sharing.